Welcome to EVTN News and happy Easter, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great Easter season, and I hope you had a great Triduum. What did you do for the Triduum? I went Byzantine on Holy Thursday and Good Friday, and I just want to read you part of the Byzantine Holy Thursday prayer. In love for God, let us ask peace for the Church, so that those teaching false doctrine may be shamed and brought down, and Christ our Lord be glorified in all things, together with his immortal Father and all Holy Spirit, now and ever and forever. So that is the Byzantine Divine Liturgy. So let's get into EVTN news. And there was a lot of news this week, and there was some big news this week. Um, First off, we'll start at China. The Chinese crackdown on the underground church has been occurring, and the Vatican, it seems like they're collaborating to crack down on the underground church. That's just what it seems like. Chinese authorities have detained Bishop Xiao Zumin of Wenzhou. He had been freed at the beginning of November after a previous arrest. On April 7th, authorities forced Bishop Zumin to board a flight. The local faithful are worried because they do not know where their pastor is at in the moment. Police also have reportedly commandeered his cell phone. The suspicion is that the government wanted to prevent him from celebrating the functions of Holy Week, especially the Chrism Mass. Okay, that would be really difficult to celebrate Holy Week if you're detained by the government. And of course, the Chinese Patriotic Church is favorable towards the Chinese Communist government. And as numerous priests, bishops, saints, I'm guessing saints, have said communism is not compatible with the Catholic faith. Now, communism is like a recent heresy, whatever. But, you know, there's been a lot of opposition from the Catholic Church. And every pope has opposed communism except for one. Bishop Augustin Ku Tai, Bishop of Zhuanhua, has also disappeared. He had been under house arrest for more than 10 years, and there were suspicions of torture. And so things are not well in China, as I'm sure you're aware. And also, the Chinese government, you know, what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, and what is the Chinese government doing? We don't hear a lot about the Chinese government right now. I wonder why. But we do hear about the Catholic Chinese deal. Anyway, let's move to the Archdiocese of Seattle. 4 properties owned by the Archdiocese of Seattle and St. James Cathedral, including chancery offices, are being sold to developer Westbank to create a carbon-neutral community in Seattle's First Hill District. Let's see. Archbishop Paul Etienne said in a March 29th statement about the sale, he said, creatively thinking about how we can better use our properties to achieve the mission of the church is exactly what we need to do as good stewards of God's gifts. The sales are an example of the Archdiocese's Catholic Real Estate Initiative, announced last November, which is focused on redeveloping underused church buildings and land so resources and energy can be directed towards the church's mission. What is the church's mission? Let me ask you that. Is it saving the environment? No. The church's mission is salvation of souls. And so all this is the Archdiocese of Seattle is seeing a declining population. I'm research this to back up the numbers, because this is just my assumption here. This is just my opinion. It's not based on any facts, but I'm going to assume that the Archdiocese of Seattle has lost a ton of people. They're losing a ton of money, and so they're selling buildings that are not only underused but not used or rarely used, so that they can recover some of these losses that that are hitting the Archdiocese in terms of financially, I guess. And they're using this this ridiculous climate agenda to justify selling these buildings, whenever what they're trying to do is just get rid of these properties that are bogging down their resources, right? Because you need insurance, but you can't insure vacant properties. But you have to pay for insurance, you have to pay property tax, and it's a lot of money. And so why don't you just admit it? Just say, okay, these buildings are underused or unused, and so we're selling them to um, try to get them off of our books, so we don't have to pay insurance and taxes on them. Why not just say that instead of making this ridiculous excuse? We need a carbon neutral community. Yeah, okay, that has nothing to do with the Catholic faith. Is it nice to? Is it a bad thing to pollute? Yeah, I mean you shouldn't actively try to pollute the environment. Like if you're dumping oil and if you're dumping oil on someone else's property, that's not a good thing. And if you're doing it out of spite, that's really bad. But it has nothing to do with the Catholic faith. Even atheists plant trees, right? I mean, come on, ridiculous. All right, last week I talked about Father Maximilian Mary Dean, and LifeSite News removed their video from YouTube, I believe. I think it was the John Henry Weston show. And they released it on Rumble. And so I put that in the notes of last week's show. And they said that there were people that wanted them to take the video down, but they wanted to leave it up. And here's why. Father Maximilian Mary Dean, a former Franciscan friar of the Immaculate, revealed that he has been fired by the Vatican as a chaplain of the traditional Discalced Carmelite nuns in Fairfield, Pennsylvania. He said, as of Palm Sunday, I will no longer be serving the sisters as chaplain. And also in Valparaiso, Nebraska, their chaplain, another in the traditional nuns' sister organization, their chaplain of 30 years, Monsignor Thorburn, was removed and told that he had to leave the chaplaincy residence there by the Vatican. That's pretty serious. The approach of the Vatican towards female monastic orders is outlined in its 2018 instruction Cor Orans. The papal directive seeks to reorganize the Church's female monastic orders into mixed collective associations, effectively pressuring those that are currently autonomous to abandon their founding identity, charism, and contemplative seclusion from the world. So Father Maximilian said, the nuns were told by no means that they would receive a dispensation from the document Cor Orans, noting as well that the Fairfield Carmelites were given roughly 1 year to comply. So there's going to be a showdown in a year. What are you going to do? Are they going to follow the Vatican, or are they going to go SSPX? Independent, whatever. I think it's a turning point. I mean, they're building this monastery, and in a future video, I really hope to outline what exactly they're planning on doing, because they have a plan that will take until about the year 2030. So that's about 8 years from now, until their full monastery, what should I say, like their monastery campus, I guess you would call it, is complete. So there's several buildings that they hope to build, and they have a few that are completed already, but there are still many in progress, many in the works, and many that they hope to build by 2030. And so, but they have 1 year to comply with the Vatican. So what are they going to do? And who is going to, and which priest is going to serve these nuns? Now, Bishop Gaynor of Harrisburg is very friendly towards tradition. And so I have no doubt that he will have a priest go there and say Mass and, tend to the sisters' needs. However, Bishop Gaynor is going to turn 75 in maybe 6 months. So he'll be retired very quickly by the Vatican, as long as Pope Francis is still Pope. Now I see a comment here in the live chat. Thank you for joining me, Kansas City Royals fan. I'm from Lincoln Diocese, where Valparaiso and those traditional sisters are located, and I know who Monsignor Thorburn is. He was the assistant at my childhood ordinary Foreign Parish when I was like 5. All right, so here's an assignment. I'm going to give you some homework. If you have a chance to visit Monsignor Thorburn, can you figure out what's going on and let us know? All right. Moving on. Jules Gomes, a churchmilitant.com journalist, writes that the anonymous Roman Rite Catholic website, traditional Catholic website, roratecheli.blogspot, is run by Chris Politz, the head of strategic initiatives at the Financial Services Institute, a lobbyist business in Washington, D.C. So I have referenced Rorate Cheli's blog posts from time to time, and he just happened to be right about the Latin Mass crackdowns, but he has some sources, I guess. However, he was wrong about certain things. He said that Pope Francis is terminally ill, and was that in December? Well, doesn't seem like it. Seems like he's ailing from like knee pain and back pain and stuff, but he doesn't seem like he's terminally ill. So I think Rorate was wrong about that, and I reported it like it was fact. That's bad on my part. Anyway, Politz, the alleged author of this website, called Gomes, the church militant employee, on Saturday after learning his role was being investigated, categorically denying he was running Rorate Cheli. He said, "I don't tweet, I don't post." Minutes later, Rorate Cheli responded to a church militant inquiry using the same phrases. "I am not Chris Politz. He doesn't tweet and he doesn't post." That's all you need to know. Okay. However, in July 2010, Politz was the official U.S. contributor to Rorate Cheli, and its Twitter account was then officially run by him. In 2011, Politz signed a statement published by remnantnewspaper.com. The signature was called Politz, contributor Rorate Cheli. In the meantime, Father Kevin Cusick, priestlife.blogspot, refuted Gomes' claim. "I know enough to know that Chris Politz is not the blogger, New Catholic at blog Rorate Cheli." Okay, so there's a lot of there's back and forth here. But this was posted on Gloria TV, and their conclusion was traditional Catholics are tearing each other apart. I wouldn't call church militant traditional Catholics. I might call them rage Catholics, but I wouldn't call them traditional Catholics. And did anyone attend that church militant Easter retreat, Holy Week retreat, whatever they call it? Michael Voris was the guest speaker for all the guest speeches, and there was a longer question and answer session than there was for private prayer. It was $1,200. Did any of you attend? All right, more German nonsense. The website on the Diocese of Limburg, Germany, published a report on the panel discussion called Out in Church, and this was reported on National Catholic Register. The panel discussion was called Out in Church after a recent initiative of the same name in which 125 LMNOP priests and employees of the Catholic Church in Germany called for more LMNOP rights in the church and complained about discrimination and other experiences in the church. The initiative was made public January 24th in a documentary also called Out in Church, broadcast on one of Germany's main television channels. All the panel speakers said much had happened since the documentary aired, but they wanted more changes. Okay. So there we go. There's your German church. Now the Remnant reported about this underground of Cardinals. So I recently reported in one of my EVTN videos about a mysterious memo that had been circulating in recent weeks among the College of Cardinals, suggesting wide-scale dissatisfaction with Francis inside the Vatican. the author of the memorandum, contends that the pontificate of Pope Francis is a disaster, in many or most respects, a catastrophe. Its author goes by the name of Demos, and there was an interview. The remnant interviewed a Monsignor, I believe, Monsignor Nicola Bucks. And so the remnant asks, who is Demos? How seriously is his memo being taken within the College of Cardinals itself? And what does this portend for the next conclave? For more on this rapidly unfolding story, we consulted Monsignor Nicola Bucks, a highly respected theologian who has served as a consultant to several dicasteries of the Holy See over the years, including the CDF, Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith under Pope Benedict. He said, discontent is widespread, but it's obvious there is an underground that doesn't express itself and is just waiting for the end of the pontificate. My question, I feel like this is a very important question, is how large is this underground? Does it consist of just Cardinal Burke, maybe another cardinal or two, Cardinal Mueller, and maybe 5 cardinals? Or does it consist of many more? And we really don't know, and we really won't find out until the next papal election, which is unfortunate, because I'd like to know. And I wish that the underground of cardinals would come above ground and declare an imperfect council, as Vigano has been saying, to investigate the conclave that elected Pope Francis. Speaking of Pope Francis, he has expressed his intention of joining the upcoming 7th World Religions Congress in Kazakhstan in September. The Congress has met every 3 years in Nur Sultan, formerly Astana, in the mainly Islamic country of Kazakhstan since 2003, and aims to promote interfaith tolerance, harmony, and dialogue under the auspices of the government of the former Soviet Republic. The Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions, its full title, will take place on September 14th to 15th, with the theme, The Role of Leaders of World and Traditional Faiths in the Socio-Spiritual Development of Humanity After the Pandemic. Wow, a lot of garbage there. Another major theme of the September 2022 meeting will be gender equality. There you go. And the contribution of women to the well-being and sustainable development of society and the role of religious communities in support of her social status. A roundtable was held March 30th to prepare this section of the 7th Congress under the sign of progressive strategy. During the meeting, one participant spoke of the harmony of Islamic civilization and the Kazakh worldview. As a result of the event, according to the Congress's website, the participants proposed recommendations on strengthening the ideas of gender equality in the world, developing new ideas for expanding the role of women in religion, and building interreligious and intercultural dialogue, which will be taken into account in preparation for one of the sections of the Vatican II Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions. Is that V2? What's V2? Vatican II? I don't know. Dedicated to the contribution of women in the well-being and sustainable development of society. V2? 7. Sorry, Roman numeral 7. Sections of the 7th Congress of Leaders of the World. Sorry. The Congress has full support of the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations. No surprise. No surprise Pope Francis is extremely interested in this Congress. But here's an interesting point. It's in Astana, Kazakhstan. I already said that. But do you know who is an auxiliary bishop of that specific diocese? Yes, it is Bishop Athanasius Schneider. So he doesn't even have to travel. He won't need to travel. He will be there. And will he have something to say in September or before September? Him and his archbishop. Because his archbishop isn't he's not one of these modernists, as we'll find out here in a minute. I just have a few clips of items here before I get to my big news story. American Magazine, they tweeted something that had the worst Twitter ratio that I've ever seen. It was so unpopular that not even the modernist heretics liked it. Their tweet was, "The Gospel of John has been used to justify anti-Semitism, so we should stop reading it on Good Friday." So that's what's coming from the Jesuits. Okay, then Sputnik News. Um, I I don't know. Are they a Russian website? I don't know. But they posted about Pope Francis wished Happy Easter to Catholics around the world on Sunday. But Frank Walker caught this. It was a really interesting clip here. Frank Walker, good catch. It said in the article, in conclusion, he, Pope Francis, absolved all those present in the square and listening to his Easter message of their sins. Did he? Was that just a typo? A loss in translation? Or did he actually attempt to do that? I don't know. I'd like to see someone look into that a little more, because that's really cringe if that happened. Okay. Happy birthday to Pope Benedict. He turned 95 last week. He resigned 9 years ago for health reasons. I'll leave that there, and we'll move on to the German Synodal Way. We talked about Germany a little bit, but the Catholic News Agency posted an article. It says more than 70 bishops from around the world, now increased to 90, more than 90 bishops from around the world have released a fraternal open letter to Germany's bishops warning that sweeping changes to church teaching advocated by the ongoing process as a synodal path may lead to schism. So we're going to focus on some of the signers here. Now you can read it at the link below. It's, let's see, one, two, oh, it's really not a long letter. 1.5 pages. And actually the list of bishops who signed the letter is longer than the actual letter itself. Now there are a lot of bishops from Africa, and we'll talk about the cardinals. There are 4 cardinals who signed this letter. Francis Cardinal Arinze of Nigeria. He was a longtime employee of the Vatican, and I think he's at least 90 years old by now. Cardinal Burke, Cardinal Napier of South Africa, and Cardinal Pell of Australia. He knows how the Vatican works too. Now the archbishops, again, there are plenty from Africa, but all over the world. There's one from Brazil, Scotland, Cameroon, Tanzania. But then there's also Archbishop Acula of Denver, Archbishop Chaput of Philadelphia. That's nice. He hasn't done a whole lot in retirement that's been public. Bishop Coakley of Oklahoma City. Okay. And what I want to say before I kind of go through this list and give a few observations, I want to say take a look, see if your bishop is on this list. And if he's not, it wouldn't hurt to ask why. Now, I'm not saying that every single bishop is going to sign this, because notably Archbishop Gullickson is not on this list. And I thought he would be one who would be on here. And there are probably a few names here that or a few names that are not here that you would expect to be on this list. So I don't know that this is like an all-inclusive list. But Archbishop Cordileone signed this. Archbishop Emeritus Joseph Kirsts of Louisville is on this list. No wonder he was retired so quickly. I'll say that. Archbishop Naumann, he's close to retirement age, and he will be very quickly retired. Archbishop Sample, that's good. Archbishop Tomasz Peta from Astana, Kazakhstan. That's the bishop over Bishop Schneider. He signed this list against the German schism. Okay, there's an auxiliary bishop from Detroit, but notice Archbishop Vigneron was not on here. Archbishop Gomez was not either. The two highest ranking USCCB officials. So it's interesting an auxiliary bishop signs it and not his bishop. Bishop Schneider also signed it as well. And as I go down through here, there's some auxiliaries from the United States. Oh, Bishop Peter Christensen of Boise, Idaho? Is that... that's interesting because he banned Ad Orientem Mass. So, Bishop Connolly of Lincoln, Bishop Daly of Spokane, the usual suspects. There are actually several... Bishop Kevin Van of Orange from California signed this. He has some kind of spotty ideas. There's some modernist stuff that goes on there, but he signed it. Not only him, but he has several auxiliary bishops there who signed it as well. So that's really interesting. Good symbol of solidarity with the Catholic faith, right? Who else? I think there were a few other names on here that were interesting to note. And if you take a look, these are the guys. Are they going to stand up against the faithless bishops in Germany? Who really knows? Bishop Thomas Olmsted of Phoenix. Now this is a really it's a really bold move because he's already 75. His retirement is going to be coming from the Vatican any second now, and I would expect that to be expedited now that he's signed this letter. Because as you know, the Vatican could say anything against the German bishops, but they haven't. And the German bishops have been at this for how many years? How many years are we talking about? Now they're openly and boldly supporting LMNOP. But before, they were already supporting them. And they had defied the CDF's directive that LMNOP couples should not receive blessings. But the Vatican, the person in the Vatican who is behind that statement has been fired and reassigned. So what does it even mean? Bishop Paprocki, Bishop Strickland, some auxiliary bishops from the military services of the United States have signed this. That's pretty good. The Good Tobin, Bishop Robert Vassa from Santa Rosa, California, Bishop James Wall from Gallup, New Mexico, Bishop William Walterscheid, auxiliary bishop of Pittsburgh, Bishop Chad Zielinski of Fairbanks, Alaska. Okay. And then Bishop Michael Warfel, I think, was he one of the ones that destroyed the Latin Mass? He's from Great Falls, Billings. That's Montana. Was he one of the ones that suppressed the Latin Mass in the diocese? I don't know. So are these bishops on our side? I don't know. It's really interesting. But who didn't sign this letter reaffirming the Catholic faith? And if your bishop didn't sign this letter, is he concerned about schism? Because that's what it is. That's what the German bishops are doing. And you can say, oh, we don't want the SSPX in our diocese, and going there is schismatic. Well, if your bishop didn't sign this letter, then they have no right to say anything about the SSPX. But even if they did sign this letter, they have no right to say anything about the SSPX unless the bishop is doing all he can to preserve the Latin Mass. Because guess what? That's the Mass of the Roman Rite. That is the sole expression of the Roman Rite. And hopefully you were able to attend the Latin Mass for Triduum. And if you weren't, well, try to do what you can to get one. It's hard. It's hard in these trying times. But the FSSP, they're exempt from the Latin Mass crackdown. Of course, it happened 7 months after the crackdown. But they are exempt. They got the permission from Pope Francis. So you can maybe use that as a kind of an argument, but who knows? Okay, well, that's all I have. So hope everyone had a happy Easter, and it's Easter season, so celebrate, rejoice, and oppose those schismatics. That's what we do on this channel. That's what we do at EVTN News, and we will never be silent. We'll never be silent against the heresies, the schisms, the apostasies that are going on in the church today. So thank you so much for watching. This has been EVTN News. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.